Never happened before. And here we go again. We're being robbed again. And once again, we're despised for it. This time it's both the Clintons and Epstein. Wasn't it the Clintons who had him taken out? And now Hilly and Billy are going to Congress for questioning. They asked Trump about it.
I always liked him a lot.
I feel good about him, said Trump. And what about her? Well, I'll say something myself, too. So, probably like most of the country, I think that only absolutely hypnotized, brainwashed misandrists, yes, that's a word. Yes, so only man-haters could have cried when she wasn't elected. Because I just can't imagine that anyone else was upset about it. Well, she's completely fake, very calculating, definitely not stupid, of course. Yes, and in my opinion, she's proven many times that she's ready to walk over corpses, both literally and figuratively. If she needs to, or even if she doesn't, she'll do it just for fun, and she'll even dance while doing it.
She was smarter, a smart woman. It pains me to see this. It really pains me to see this. But then I look at myself. They attacked me, like they wanted to put me in prison for life.
Now it's finally time for Hillary and Bill to sweat, at least a little bit. By the way, one more remark about Trump, and then we'll get to our topic, Epstein, Bill, Hillary. What you're about to hear from Trump, I've actually said many times before.
I had a friend, a very smart guy. He said he's a very wealthy man, knows life, a seasoned guy. He said, you must be the most honest person in the whole world because no one has ever been checked so thoroughly inside and out. I have hundreds of thousands of pages of documents, millions of pages. And with all that, they didn't find a single thing wrong. Remember?
By the way, just for fun. So recently, Trump bragged, boasted, I don't know, and that's it. Absolute truth, 100% truth, just to show how celebrities are. Lies and propaganda don't work when Americans turn on their common sense. The only country in the world where people with common sense make up much more than 50%, but for now, 50% plus one vote is enough. And most of these people are fierce, determined individualists.
They have gone through millions and millions of pages. And here I am, winning elections by a huge margin, winning the popular vote, winning all 7 swing states, winning 86% of the counties in the United States. That's why those maps look all red.
That's right. The people have spoken. Clinton, Obama, stop Clinton, Obama. We don't want you anymore. So today they will go. Agreed? No, they won't go today. Today, all sorts of debates on this topic started in Congress, but they will go for questioning. Don't set traps for others. You'll get trapped yourself.
I always liked him. Her, yes, this woman, she is a very capable woman. She performed better in debates than some other people, I'll tell you. She was smarter, a very smart woman. It's hard for me to see this in many ways. By winning all 7 swing states, getting 86% of the counties in the United States, that's why all the maps you see are red. And so they tried to put me in jail, and I shouldn't feel this way, but I feel sorry that they have to go through this. But then I say, but they did much worse than I did. They wanted to put me in jail. Think about it. I was very good. We had a great first term, rebuilt the military, the biggest tax cuts in history, the biggest regulatory reductions
in history. Here's what I think.
What I can say. Tommy Scheider was the head of the CIA bureau in Moscow. I mean, that's a pretty serious position. And then he worked in the upper ranks of the CIA.
They will be asked very clear and direct questions, and they will know the answers. And I think that's exactly where the problem lies. They don't really want to testify about what they know.
As Komar said, we still have something up our sleeve, something like, how do you say, in the buttocks? No, not in the buttocks. In something anyway, in something. And there's still powder in the powder flasks, so what do we have? But the thing is, the Clintons' connection with Jeffrey Epstein lasted much longer than when they claimed they had already parted ways with him.
The Clinton Foundation is one of the so-called plan holders. It's a nautical term that actually existed. Jeffrey Epstein was a main sponsor of their foundation. What happened with that? In my experience, Stephen, people like Epstein never do anything just because they're good guys. They're always looking for what they can get out of it. And that's why I think this will be the starting point. All right, Madam Secretary, what did you request from Jeffrey Epstein? Did he deliver? What did he want in exchange? And what access did you grant him? This line of questioning alone could take most of the day. So I'm not even sure if they'll be able to ask her questions at all and get adequate answers on the day she's scheduled.
Okay, when the Clintons left the White House, they were practically broke to the point that they stole furniture because he was forced to pay $900,000 in compensation for sexual harassment to someone. Do you think they're trying to avoid any connection with Epstein? Or do you think it all comes down to the Clinton Foundation and how it turned from nothing into an absolutely massive, huge pay-to-play scheme?
Stephen, I'm disappointed you joined the right-wing conspiracy Hillary mentions.
So there was a connection, and not just 25 years ago, as Bill says, but at least when Hillary was Secretary of State. That's why Epstein was giving her, well, her foundation money, and it wasn't a small amount. But there's another absolutely remarkable topic that the left demands not to touch. They immediately go into a frenzy and rage whenever this topic comes up.
What created the wealth that Clinton had, this connection with Epstein? It goes back to the very beginning of their activities after the presidency. That is, as you noted, they were completely broke. So I think Epstein saw three opportunities in Clinton. First, debauchery. They were, in a way, very similar. I think their morals were pretty loose. I think Bill Clinton is attracted to young girls. I'm just saying, I think it's very clear that there was something going on there, and I think that will be at the center of questions about Bill Clinton. But the second area is, of course, finance. Epstein is considered a major financier, and by the way, Stephen, it seems that no one really knows how he became a major financier. How that happened in his past is a bit of a mystery. There are strange people, for example, Bill Barr's father, who got him into the school, and that set him on his trajectory, which we might talk about another time. That's another area. And then, of course, the global influence.
Remember Bill Barr, who was presented to Trump as the most honest defender of conservative ideals? He was stealing before that, the most honest man together with Clinton, again, supposedly conservative. Profits from drug trafficking. Let me explain what I mean. According to witness reports, and incidentally a movie about this starred Tom Cruise, so basically drugs were coming from Nicaragua. The CIA was bringing them into the United States because, well, they try to search at the border, except if it's under the CIA's name. So the CIA was bringing drugs into the United States and selling them on United States territory. And they split the profits with the Sandinistas, for whom all this was being done. They bought weapons for them and trained their guys. So in the state of Arkansas, where Bill Clinton was governor, yes, so the Sandinistas were working together with Clinton's gang, or as he called it, I don't know, not a gang, maybe a group, I don't know. Mafia group gang. It was all the same with the feds, meaning those of George Bush Jr., who were represented by Barr. And besides that, it turns out that Bill Barr's father knew and moreover actually hired Epstein. You see how everything is connected. Yes, for a job to teach at a school, even though Epstein had no right to teach or work there because he hadn't even graduated. Well, he was a mathematician, they say a good one. He studied it, but he was by no means a teacher. You couldn't even remotely call him that, but for some reason he was hired after his death. So Barra Senior Epstein, he was kicked out of the school, expelled for, as they wrote, somewhat inappropriate behavior with young female students. He was a teacher and they were students. Well, that doesn't surprise us at all nowadays, right?
Besides money, besides investments, what kind of access did President Clinton provide with his name and former presidential status? What kind of prestige, status, and access did Clinton give to Epstein? And obviously, he gave a lot. Because if you look at the emails, and I haven't gone through all of them yet, it's very clear that there was a mutually beneficial relationship, and that benefit was about gaining access. So those are the three areas where I think they'll really be questioning Bill Clinton once they get to him on Friday the 27th.
So it's not about girls, not about jacuzzis with drinks and snacks, if you can even call that a snack. Yeah, it's much, much deeper and more troubling. By the way,
It's documented that Jeffrey Epstein visited Bill Clinton at the White House 17 times. I mean, there are people who bought Hunter Biden's artwork, but they didn't get to see Biden 17 times. So what kind of relationship did Epstein and Clinton have that he was invited to the Oval Office, to the White House so many times? Then the Clintons end up broke, Epstein gets involved, and now suddenly their fortune is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. All of this is very suspicious. And now Hillary Clinton, she published this scathing letter saying, if you want to play dirty, the Clintons know how to play dirty. If you want to make this public, we'll take our fight out in the open. Where do you think all this is going? Because at first I expected there would be a lot of statements like, on the advice of counsel, I invoked the Fifth Amendment, but it looks like she's going to fight back hard. Or is this all just for show, just for the public?
Hillary has already made it clear that she won't go down alone. Well, I think she said, are we alone or am I alone? I don't remember exactly, but they won't go down. She has materials that, according to her, could drag half of Washington down with her. By the way, I would be happy, absolutely happy, if Hillary dragged half or even better, 3/4 of Washington down with her. That would be just wonderful. Do you want to see a brand new video file? This is Steve Bannon, just so you know. You can't see him there, but it's Steve Bannon, the one the left reported had flown to the island. So, well, he definitely didn't, but Bill Clinton flew there. What was it, 27, 29, 37 times? He definitely didn't, but Bill Barr flew to the island. And he definitely used the services of young girls. You know, the ones who did massages, of course. But it turns out that what Steve Bannon was doing there, and that's what has now come out about Epstein, wouldn't be pleasant.
I'm just asking, is your money dirty? No, that's not the case at all. And actually, well, why wouldn't it be dirty? Because I earned it with my hard work, but I earned it in a completely legal way. You earned it. We've already talked about this. You earned it by consulting terrible people who do awful things just to make more money. Should I ask whether you should take this money? I think it's reasonable. Do you think this question is reasonable, yes or no? What I'm thinking about it, I guess. And you know, ethics is always a very complicated topic. Are you a level 3 sexual predator? What level are you? Is level 1 the highest or lowest? Actually, you're the lowest. Level 1. Do you think you're the devil? No, but I do have a good mirror. Sorry, serious question. Do you really think you're the devil himself? I don't know why you think that. But you have all the qualities. You're incredibly smart. Remember, the devil knows all the mischief and is a genius. Oh, you've read Milton. You've read Milton's Paradise Lost. That's it. No, I'm afraid of the devil.
And what about the liberals in the media? They went to the jacuzzi room, and to the dark rooms, and that's where they relaxed. Well, in my opinion, Jeffrey actually got really tense.
This is an incredible moment of absolute transparency about how the world works, how the government interacts with the private sector and financial funds, and it's just incredibly cool to be a part of it. What caused the delay? It seemed many didn't want those files public. I've thought about this a lot for a long time. What can we access now? These are internal documents from the Department of Justice and the FBI, which, although not classified, are usually part of a criminal investigation and therefore are not disclosed to the public. It might require an act of Congress to bring this out, for example, if internal investigations are being conducted and it's not part of a court document that has been filed in the case. You can't just request compromising material from the Department of Justice on your political opponents just because you think they might be involved in something.
So, a presidential order is not enough. A decision from Congress is needed.
I mean, obviously there was friction because this affects all Republicans and Democrats, Americans, and a dozen different foreign countries, heads of major hedge funds and multinational corporations, donors from all political parties, major universities and scientific institutions. I mean, practically every truly major and significant player in modern world affairs was involved in one way or another. Either an agricultural expert directly involved in all these processes or was in close proximity to what was happening.
All or almost all those close to the governments of the United States, Europe, and so on turn out to be pedophiles. That is, knowing that they are breaking the law, they break it easily. Like, if something is forbidden but you really want to, then you can do it a little, or maybe a bit more than just a little, for them. Because the laws are signed for the plebs, for rednecks, for people like us, not for them. That's why, for example, they imposed on us the best healthcare insurance system in the world. It's called Obamacare. But the only group of people who get a different, not this best in the world health insurance it's the members of Congress and their families who in fact shove this down our throats. For example, we're not allowed to steal. That's normal, right? That's how it should be, yeah. But when they get together, they can decide to rob us a little more, and then if they really want to, even more. And then again. Or we're not allowed to kill, but if they want to, wipe out part of the population here or abroad, they declare war and kill as many as they want. Then they go to church, synagogue, or mosque. Some have even started saying, don't steal, don't kill, don't commit adultery. All of this last part, especially the last one, is incredibly funny. If you can't, but you really want to, what do our politicians do? That's right, they do whatever they want. Created by Dimatorzok.
There was a sort of mutual destruction pact surrounding Epstein's hot potato for the past 10 years. And that's what, when they were not in power, the Republicans talked about. The Democrats don't want to reveal this because of the Clintons, and then the Trump administration comes to power. And there was a very slow, reaction to those revelations that led to what happened this week. And so the Democrats were claiming they keep this hidden due to Trump's circle and his close associates. Meanwhile, they ran the Department of Justice and FBI for 4 years, but released no information.
Yeah, the point is both sides acted the same, which makes me think the most likely explanation, according to Occam's razor, for why both sides did this, again, is that they're all involved. Not every one of them was necessarily involved in Epstein's crimes, but representatives from both poles of the political structure and political system of the United States turned out to be involved.
They're all, okay, not all, but almost all of them. And from both sides, I'm afraid, not just one, but both. Hillary's congressional hearing is on February 26. Bill's congressional hearing is on February 27, both in closed session. So, you won't be able to watch it on television, but it will be recorded on video. There are no time limits. It can last more than a day for each, but most likely it will be 1 day each. If the Clintons answer without obvious contradictions in the documents, then the committee issues a politically tough but legally absolutely toothless report, a recommendation without a recommendation to initiate a criminal case. If the answers are, let's say, evasive or incomplete, which is most likely what will happen, then new documents are demanded from the Clintons, new witnesses are called, and the report contains some hints, something suggesting that something terrible will happen to them later, but in reality, nothing happens. If the Clintons are caught lying under oath, which is actually quite possible, I'd say there's less than a 50% chance, but it's possible, then the committee can recommend action against both or one of them, more likely against Hillary Clinton than Bill. Like, recommend opening a criminal case with the potential possibility of later punishing, specifically imprisoning the person. But after that, everything depends on the Department of Justice, and they're actually more likely on Trump and his people. What is called a close circle will decide whether it is politically advantageous or not. I mean, whether it is beneficial. To air the dirty laundry, drag the Clintons through the courts, and so on. And of course, a huge amount of details that will be leaked to the press. So both parties will use this to squeeze out, extract, and milk some benefit for themselves during the election campaign. A huge leak, the latest one, this clatter. There are 3.5 million pages and 2,180 videos that showed Bill flew to Epstein more often than he said. The documents revealed Epstein's connections with the Clinton Foundation, and Epstein's social circle expanded significantly, apparently with the help of the Clintons, who introduced him to the global elite. In exchange for what, you might ask? Well, in exchange for introductions to money. So they introduced him to people, and he introduced them to money. He got to know them. Before that, they weren't acquainted. Everything will be clarified during these interrogations. What did you receive and what did you give? So the main thing now is which side will be able to convince voters in November that, let's put it this way, that their opponents, the Democrats and Republicans, Republicans and Democrats, they are nastier than we are, even than we are, and more immoral. That's probably the right word. Yes, Republicans are more immoral, supposedly, than we, the Democrats. Or, on the contrary, Democrats are more immoral than we, the Republicans. That's why both sides will focus all efforts on this. Just like during Epstein's interrogations now, that's how it will be all the time between the end of the interrogations and the elections in November of this year. On a lighter note, Kit Starber, the British Prime Minister, once appointed Epstein's friend and drinking buddy Peter as ambassador to the United States, someone named Mendelssohn. I don't know if he's related to the composer. The connections between Mendelssohn, and Epstein were known. Well, it was known they were connected. But the level of those connections, the depth of those connections turned out to be completely different. It's not just a passing acquaintance. No, it's actually something completely different. So it became clear that they were significantly more connected than we had thought. That he had no idea whatsoever that he himself had been deceived and had already expelled the ambassador, but now, basically, there's almost a revolt going on in England, and they're demanding that he resign. We Americans, Trump supporters, Make America Great Again people, have nothing against this. Now, the left is writing that the new Epstein files have fatally wounded Trump. The right is writing that Ukrainians are dirty there. Dirty ties of the Democrats have been proven in the new files, and so on and so forth. Yes, Ukrainians are writing that Putin is tainted and can't wash it off. Russia is writing that this is a blow to Zelensky. Where is the truth, you may ask? Well, nowhere. Not in the middle, not on the side, not nearby, nowhere at all. Absolutely nowhere. It's just, I don't even know, a fountain of nonsense, pure deception, because all of this was in the hands of the Democratic Party of the United States of America for 4 years. Well, if there was something there, they would have pulled it out a long time ago and either shown it to everyone, destroyed it, or put it somewhere to bring out at the right moment, and they would have brought it out. Because there were plenty of moments with Trump when he was running for office. There were a lot of moments. Or do you think that the Democrats would never make this public because it could be something like that and so on? No, you made everything public and did it all yourself. The truth is there was nothing. No girl, no guy, not with Clinton, not with Hillary, not with Trump. What was there? Was there anything? Girls for $200 ready for $200 to play any games with older men that the older men would want to play. Neither politicians nor billionaires nor officials for a second thought that what they were doing was immoral, not beautiful and illegal, or whether it was perfect at all. Let them be already mature girls. From the point of view of nature, everything is fine, but if you live in a country and say that you have to obey its law, then obey its law. Mothers and fathers of young girls, good job, guys. A network of recruits, a network of serving staff in apartments, in houses, and so on. Everything was tip-top, hush-hush. I don't know what else they call it. Hanky-panky, hunky-dory, whatever. Yeah, how is it? That's all totally is to been. Probably terrible again. Absolutely. So the words are kind of still written down, but how they are in my head, how they're pronounced, I don't remember at all. That is, as long as the money was coming in and the police weren't bothering us, there was no danger. Yes, it turned out everyone was ready to steal, everyone was ready to cheat, everyone was ready to break the law, everyone was ready to spit on the Constitution. And some were ready to do it just for a piece of ham. And, well, what else? They were even selling beer and alcohol there. Not non-alcoholic, just to hell with it. To Grandma, everyone, including Mom, Grandma, and all the other female relatives, women of the female gender. Will anyone be punished? Will Hillary and Bill be punished? Well, let's say for their dealings with Epstein, for exchanging investments for something. For what, when she was Hillary? I mean, our foreign minister, yes, Secretary of State. For selling uranium to the Russians, for the fact that she got the embassy group killed along with the ambassador in Libya, started a war for the reset with Russia. Separately, we get sentenced to life. That is, life plus 7 years, that's our wording. Life plus 7 years. Well, all right. So, who will be held responsible for the stolen Ukrainian billions, just for the stolen billions that were sent to some other countries, disappeared through United States Agency for International Development and through many other channels? Yes, who will be held accountable for the bribes that were given to the foundation and then given to Hillary? And our country was giving it away in some completely different way. Just like with the Bidens, yes, with Ukraine, with the Bidens, with China. Well, they weren't the first to come up with this, as they say. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very afraid that they're going to mess with us, as they say, twist our heads, spin our heads, wring our necks, and everything else along with our heads. For those mysterious $100 million in the Clintons' account, for those mysterious $100 million in Obama's account. Who knows, but I hope that with the questioning of the Clintons, something new will begin. I don't know, I keep hoping, and I really want to, maybe just a little, but they just won't let it happen. Yes, I really hope that a new era in American jurisprudence will begin, when people will be punished for crimes, let's put it that way. Yes, regardless of anything. In other words, they'll put the blindfold back on the lady with the scales so that when she passes judgment, she won't know who's standing before her. I'm afraid it won't work out because 60 judges refused to take cases after the elections with Trump. They didn't say Trump was wrong, well, the people who filed those cases, but all 60 judges just refused to consider them. Now some have begun to accept them. I don't know, maybe they don't have kids, maybe something else happened, God only knows. Maybe they were told to accept them now and then get rid of them during the process so that they wouldn't be called the same names they used to call you and us before. Okay, so I think we'll wrap up for today. Usually I end on a major note, but now something minor came up. Yeah, but honestly, I still have some hope left that one of the Clintons will end up in jail. Or at least when she thinks she's going down, she'll open her mouth and reveal the documents she's keeping somewhere, and as she said, she'll take down half of Washington. I hope it's 3/4. Like I said, that's actually pretty optimistic, right? Yeah, I like to end on an optimistic note. So let's hope that Hillary Clinton, deciding that her fate is in danger and she might go to jail, will pull out the materials and take everyone down with her 3/4 of Washington. That would be absolutely wonderful. See you next time, subtitles.